Good morning, everyone. It's Saturday, which means it's time for yet another Salty Saturday morning. I am your host, Mr. Kadish. And joining me, as always, is my fantastic panel of nerds, starting with Matt Vader74. How
Hey,
you feeling
bud.
today, buddy?
After watching this countdown, I'm a little dizzy from the animated background spinning around. I feel like I just ate
So
an
it
edible
did
or
its
something.
job. Yeah.
But yeah, it's like, whoa, it was weird. Okay, but yeah, I'm here. I'm good. Ready to roll. I actually read some of the articles you sent this week, so
Whoa.
we'll see how it goes. That doesn't mean I have much of an opinion on him. You know, Bob Iger. What else? Whatever. What else is he gonna do? He's an asshole. So
Indeed. Speaking of assholes, Brian from the Popcast,
Hey now.
our diversity shield against all things woke. How you doing, buddy?
Not bad, man. Hanging in there.
Dude, you have been killing it on Twix lately with all your clips from your live streams.
This is the only way I can stay sane, is the ability to complain in real time to a few people that might care. That's it. That's all I could do, bro.
you're killing it. You're killing it with that alphabet crowd.
Yeah, if you
Oh, they're not happy with me.
one of their own, Brian. One of their own.
If you're not following, guys, I'm doing it. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, if you're not following the Popcast on X, otherwise known as Twitter, be sure to follow them on there because they post a lot of good content.
Brian's the Caitlyn Jenner of the twink community. Like, no, not that guy. We don't want that guy.
Buckle up, buckaroos.
He has other opinions. What are you talking about?
No opinions that aren't mine are allowed here.
All right, and Dean Kane's new best friend, Odin from OMB Reviews. How you doing, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing great. I missed y'all last week, but I was down in Orlando for MegaCon. Ton of fun. Got to meet a lot of really awesome people. But I'm glad to be back here with the Salty Nerds.
Her name was Ton of Fun. That's interesting.
Man,
oh my gosh, I hate you
how
so
much.
much.
How much does that cost?
A ton. Yeah.
You pay by the pound or?
So many meanings with that expression. I just can't even right now. Let's say an extra prayer for you, sir.
Come to Vegas this week. There's all kinds of options out there.
Oh yeah, you got a lot of options. Just walk down the street.
Yeah, and you can hang out with your best friend Dean Kane out here.
Yeah, Tom Brady. Can't hang out with Tom Brady. He's all over.
And the man, the myth, the legend, the guy who's really upset that we're not talking about Gina Carano this episode, Tom Connors Jr. How you doing, buddy?
Thank you. I'd say thank you for having me, but I forgot why I was here. What?
You can never lose with a Biden soundboard.
Yeah, are you on the border of Mexico/Egypt right now?
Have you seen that map?
Gaza Strip from here.
He's in his bedroom and doesn't know where he is. So
Yeah. Well, it's still an honor to have the President of the United States on our show. So very good stuff. And making his triumphant return to Salty Saturdays, a man who we have unfortunately neglected for far too long.
Yeah, what the heck, man?
Mr. Huffman himself. How you doing, RM?
I'm good. Super. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Call you Bird from now on?
I don't know.
Hey, Bird.
I have many names. Some of them are real. Maybe some of them aren't even me. I don't know. I decided to craft an air of mystery because Linda Yaccarino nuked my old account. So I'm very cynical and sad. And
Well, guys, the last time Huffman was on the show, we were doing our Rings of Power reviews.
was it that long ago?
It was that long ago. Yeah.
probably has been. I've been busy, though. I've been busy, Matt. I've been so busy.
Well, the whole reason we haven't had you on is because you were doing all types of stuff. You got a career, you got a family, you got all your children's books, which are definitely worth checking out. So, and now you're into AI art, which is dangerous in and of itself.
Yes, indeed. And there's another project that dropped last week that I might discuss. Y'all have already mentioned the star of this new project that I was involved with.
All right.
It's Joe Biden.
Joe Biden.
It's Joe Biden.
It's Joe Biden. Hopefully
I did
he's
not
right.
have sexual relations with that. No,
Wrong presidency, sir. Wrong presidency.
I'll sniff her hair.
That's really good. That's a really good one. I like that.
Yes.
It's pretty
Well,
good.
we're gonna try to stay politics free for all of our viewers out there. And speaking of which, we have a goal set for this live stream. We'd like to get 10 new members for our membership area. So like if you want to sign up or you want to gift some memberships, we're looking to hit 10 of those during the course of this live stream. I want to give a big shout out to Major Chai Chai, who's been gifting memberships. He's up there with Jillian N for our top gifters right now. So thank you very much, Major Chai Chai. We haven't updated the graphic, so your name's not on there this episode, but I promise we will get it on there as soon as possible. Also, if you guys would care to give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts, it really goes a long way towards getting us to be able to apply to be accredited movie reviewers over on Rotten Tomatoes. Big help on that front. And
That's opening up soon, right?
March.
Yeah.
They have a big reject stamp was waiting for our application.
Yeah, big one. So we need all the help we can get. Also, if you haven't joined our Discord, sign up for saltynerddiscord.com. There's actually instructions in the description that tell you how to link your Discord to your YouTube channel. And so if you become a member of our channel, of our membership area, you get access to a special part of our Discord where only members can talk, and we're going to be putting member content in there and all types of stuff. So be sure
a lot of Vader
that.
feed pics in there too. I like it.
A lot of Vader feed pics, indeed. So basically, be sure to do that. It's actually super easy to do. Link in the description for the instructions if you want to know how to do that. What were you saying?
Really an inconvenience.
Got to give the people what they want, man. And if it's Vader, if it's feet pics, they get feet pics.
Then they get feed pics. That's it.
And they get feed pics. And want to give a huge shout out to Corrupt Content for becoming a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Corrupt Content. I hope you enjoy it. We have a playlist on our channel specifically for member content. So if you guys haven't had a chance to check that out now, go on over there. We're doing member live streams every month. And plus, we're going to be doing a lot of members only content over there. And we also have our Patreon, which is going to have its own form of content if you want to support us over there instead.
I was apparently too drunk last week. I got a complaint. So
yeah.
It's like, sorry, I'll not drink my couple shots before we
get
going.
If people don't like Drunk Vader, they probably shouldn't be a member. But that
No,
wasn't a
not a
real
good
member. They were a gifted member. They were just like, oh, I'm not rolling over my membership because Vader's so drunk.
Oh no!
I wasn't though. I wasn't.
Power of the dark bitters, son. But I love you. I really, really love you.
And
I've been keeping it calm. So just saying.
Yes, indeed. So, guys, speaking of people we love, let's talk a little bit about Wil Wheaton.
We're starting out with this guy.
Really?
We're starting out.
That's
with
such a
We're
bait
talking
and
about Wil
switch.
Wheaton, but we're
my
not talking
God.
about Gina.
Let's
What's
say
the
people
hell?
we love. Gina's the answer to that question.
We talked about
Will
Gina
Wheaton.
on Tuesday.
Guys, we don't talk about stuff we love on this show.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
Didn't see that in the
should-
contract.
We are very pro Gina around here. Just saying, pro Gina.
Very pro Gina, very
I hope she-
anti Wil Wheaton.
Hope she kicks their ass. It's gonna be
In
fun
fact,
to watch.
Fuck you, Wil Wheaton. Hashtag.
That's it.
More like Wil Wheat Cracker.
Yes. So for those of you who aren't on Facebook, which is pretty much all of you, Wil Wheaton went on this huge tirade.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Good grief.
It wasn't. This is only the first part of his post. The post was so long they couldn't fit it all into one graphic. But
Wow.
Glenn Greenwald, who is a very fine independent journalist, even if he kind of like more left leaning than most, he basically couldn't tell if this was supposed to be satire when he saw it in his Facebook feed. But it turns out that Wil Wheaton is very, very upset about Larry David assaulting Elmo on the morning show.
Show
And
us
we
on the
actually-
Elmo dial where he touched you.
Yeah, we actually have the clip here.
Wait. Oh my gosh. Elmo, don't
All right.
do
Well,
it.
basically, Larry David just came out and choked Elmo.
Ask permission before you touch people, Larry.
Very brief clip on the morning show, and this triggered Wil Wheaton.
That's
to-
assault?
So
Yeah.
It's a puppet for one.
It's a puppet.
it's puppet
Yes,
abuse.
exactly. But guys, he was there to talk about his love and empathy for people having a tough time. And in this post, basically, Wil Wheaton states that when he was a kid, his father used to shake him vigorously and abuse him
Oh no.
verbally. And Elmo is meant to be something to help kids work through that, because Elmo, I don't know if you guys knew this or not, Elmo is basically a 4-year-old. He's a kid. And so Wil Wheaton took it very personally when Larry David did this. And
Well, Wil Wheaton was
most-
like 40 when Elmo got famous on Sesame
Right.
Street, though.
Yeah, and he's 51 now.
Yeah.
Okay? And the thing about Wil Wheaton is that he's such a snowflake. He still wears a mask when he goes outside and interacts with other people. The guy is not mentally healthy, is what I'm saying. And
No.
anyone who's watched his Star Trek after shows can attest to this. So I want to throw this to our Star Trek expert on the panel, Brian. Brian,
Oh.
what's your take on Wil Wheaton basically, hating on Larry David?
Oh, I think it's fantastic, Matt. I think it's really gave us a lot to talk about. I always like watching this guy melt down, and this is not the first time, just so you know. Yeah, he's done it a few times. A lot of people, maybe some of you guys don't know the story, but we actually interacted with Wil in real time back before we were YouTubers. We had a Reddit store account. I'm not sure if you know what Reddit store was, but back in the day, Reddit had like their own marketplace, and you can buy people gifts, and there was this whole gift exchange thing that people would do. And we started a store on there, and our products are very nerdy, and Reddit is very nerdy, and so generally speaking, we were doing really well. We were competing with one other store. We were like neck and neck when it came to like popularity for a while. And all of a sudden, we got a message about halfway through the Christmas season that our store is being shut down because of copyright claims and complaints and reports from other stores. And we pushed and we pushed and we pushed, and finally they gave us the name of the store, and it was our competition. And our competition at the time, they had basically complained that we were copying their designs. We were not doing that. But they complained so much, and they had so much juice at Reddit, that Reddit pulled our store down. And I found out about 3 months later that store was owned by Wil Wheaton. So,
Wow.
not a joke.
Wow.
So you know what? I'm going to end my little thing here. Can I share my screen? I can share you a message from Shane on this exact topic
Go for it.
because it's perfect. Let me just present. It's perfect. I cannot say it better than Shane can say it right here. Here we go.
Riveting.
Wow.
Gotta get that sound up, bro.
No music.
Can you not hear it?
Wow.
No,
No,
can't hear it.
I am so happy that was worth the wait.
Oh, I didn't know. I don't know how to make it so you can hear it.
You
so.
hyped it
What's
up so much.
I know. What's he said?
Ron, you
He
didn't
said,
share the
"Will,
audio.
you're 51 years old. Shut the fuck up."
Yeah,
That's what he
yeah.
said.
That's a
You
good
could have said
response.
that in a third of the time. Just saying.
I'm just saying he said it better than I did. Yeah, and the guy's always been a sensitive little dickhead. The second we started competing with him in any way on Reddit, he literally used his stardom, and because Reddit is infatuated with Wil Wheaton. Like you post a Wil Wheaton meme where it's like, shut the fuck up, Will, and they lose their minds. They're like, that's offensive. It's offensive for you to quote Star Trek in a Star Trek subreddit. Oh God. Like that, so they're all over. They just love that guy. So the second he complained about us, they shut our entire store down. We had like an entire business based on this website. That was the first time I realized that like we cannot base our business, like our business cannot be in one basket, because they just like unilaterally shut us down because someone they liked didn't like us. So yeah, Wil
I think the problem was he wasn't abused enough.
yeah, that's the problem clearly.
Wow.
His parents pimped him out for acting money.
Yeah. So
I mean,
Matt
yeah.
Vader 74.
Whoa.
You have not been shy about your dislike for Wil Wheaton.
No,
What is wrong with him as a human being? Can you give us a
I
reason?
don't. I think he's just a product of too much soy milk growing up. I don't know. He's just insufferable, right? He's just one of these people that just everything that we make fun of in Hollywood land and about these snowflake weirdo people that toe the line over there, he is the poster boy of. So anytime he spurgs out like this, it's just funny. It's that's all I get out of this is a laugh, And I know he's trying to be all serious, and the dude has like some major daddy issues and stuff, but I just laugh. I just chuckle. And it's like, oh, here goes Will again. What's he gonna do? We're gonna get another 1,000 YouTube videos made by people because he can't shut the fuck up, you know. So yeah, it's fun. It's fun watching him do this, you know. And he's just an idiot. I don't know what else to say. He's just an absolute idiot. You know, Larry David's just being Larry David, right? I mean, that's what Larry David does. He's acting like his character, which is probably 50% him in real life, and coming out there on the show and doing inappropriate things, which is what Larry David does, and it's funny, you know. So to trigger Wil Wheaton like that, I say abuse more puppets. Just abuse them. Just record videos of you doing things to Elmo that would just, you know, just
non-sexual things.
Just get really brutal with your.
You have to be clear
Elmo
though.
Puppets.
Hold on.
Do it. Make videos. Put them on Twitter. Just and tag Will.
Tag Will.
I think the original Elmo puppeteer would really like to get to know Wil Wheaton.
Yeah. Speaking of inappropriate things and puppets, let's not forget why we should all hate Elmo.
I've never liked Elmo.
You shouldn't like Elmo.
Kevin
you know
Clash, the guy who did the original voice, got busted trying to sleep with underage guys.
Did he actually get convicted? Or
no? Do you know why?
No, he got out of it, but yeah,
he didn't get convicted because of statute of limitations. But
okay,
that doesn't mean he didn't do it, and he claims it's all consensual. I don't know. It seems like the original voice and puppeteer of Elmo used Elmo to get close to a bunch of kids that he abused.
Which bothers me because he was the voice of Splinter in the first 2 Ninja Turtle movies too.
Was he really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Go
He's
take
a lot
your
of Muppets, yeah.
Go take your Elmo doll and have him like sticking halfway out your trunk and close the trunk and just like take videos of him driving down the freeway. You know, take Elmo's being kidnapped. Save him.
They have like car ornaments where it's just the back of Elmo that you can stick out of a. There's already a thing like that. It's pretty funny.
What if you like hung him by a noose from your doorway?
We'll just say justice will come around for him. If it doesn't come in this life, it'll come in the next.
I'm just trying to figure out ways to trigger Wil Wheaton now. I don't even care about Elmo.
That's not very hard, it seems like.
Yeah, let's let the triggering begin. That's what we'll hashtag it. Trigger the
hashtag the triggering.
The triggering.
Starring Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Great.
What?
So,
no.
I want to throw this to Odin because there is an opposite side to this where it's like, well, is he justified in being upset that like this popular kids figure was basically choked on live television? Like, do you think that, you know, because you are a school teacher, right? So like from the kids' perspective, was there actually something wrong with what happened?
No, just because the way it happened and the way it was presented, that's why I even said the question of like, is that supposed to be assault, right? Because the first thing you do is it's a puppet, so like, what's the deal? But then you look at actually what he did, and you're like, you could just tell he was goofing around. Like it wasn't even like something where, you know, it'd be one thing if it was like Winnie the Pooh, right? Or even you can have Elmo there too. And if someone was like literally like assaulting, and then he comes back up and they've changed the puppets and then there's like blood coming out. Okay, yeah, that would be traumatizing for a child, right? But like the thing that happened, it's like, no, that's just ridiculous. And so part of me wonders a couple of things. So obviously we kind of established that clearly Wil Wheaton has something wrong with him. And it seems like this is probably stemming from his own childhood. And so that, you know, automatically, and I know that not, you know, everyone may not have this feeling, that automatically makes me feel sad for him. Like, because it's just so sad that he has obviously gone through something to the point where something like that will trigger him. And so, again, I think that it's pathetic and I think it's sad. And obviously, you know, if he's going through a lot of things, I hope that he gets help for it. I don't think he will. It seems like he's been going through this for many, 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 many years. But I still, obviously, I want what's best for him, just like I want the best for anyone who I maybe don't like. But then I also have to ask the question too, like getting that out of the way for a second.
You're such a nice guy, Odin.
But it's also like that's the most charitable view that I can have of it. But that doesn't mean that it's the only view, because it's also wait a minute, isn't it also the same guy that probably is very much TDS, and who recently on his show redid the mugshot of Trump, and so part of me is like, I wonder if he was just waiting for something to happen. And to be like, oh, I'm going to go off on this tangent here because this guy, even though everyone looks at that and saying, yeah, you can basically read into the mugshot thing from either side. Like there's really no like clear positive or negative, whatever indication. And then the other thing is that, okay, I think the most likely thing is he clearly is an attention seeker. He always wants attention on him. He saw an opportunity to get that attention, and now we're giving it to him. So, yeah.
Well, he is definitely an attention seeker. But
Yeah.
I want to throw this to Tom real quick. Tom, what kids are watching Good Morning America that might have been traumatized by it? I mean, Wil Wheaton's a 51-year-old man.
I mean,
On
I guess
standard
younger
TV.
kids, but at that point, I think Odin's right. I think anybody who doesn't realize that Larry David was just goofing around,
Yeah.
even a child,
Yeah.
I think could understand that. Elmo was clearly not injured, wasn't hurt. Larry, they don't even know who the hell Larry David is anyway. Most cases, like you said, most kids are not going to be watching. Who even watches Sesame Street anymore anyway? And honestly, it's
Right.
just
What kids
As far
watching
as
the morning
Will-
show? What kids
exactly
watching
like they're either in school or they're off in the playroom playing and stuff. Let Ma watch the morning show. What moms even watch the morning show anymore? Right? I mean, most kids are at daycare or school at this point. So,
Yep.
yeah, it just, to me, it doesn't make any sense. As far as Will, like I was joking earlier, but with all honesty, I mean, Elmo had been around since the mid 80s, but he did not become upfront until after Jim Henson had passed away. So this was like mid 90s by the time Elmo finally started picking up steam. So I have a hard time believing that Wil Wheaton even gives a shit about Elmo. I think you guys are right. He's just using this as some sort of distraction tool. I didn't even know about the other thing. But as far as his dad shaking him, boo hoo hoo.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's like,
Like
Probably
there's a lot
probably
worse
deserved it.
things that could happen to you. You had a pretty damn good childhood, I'm sure, considering like of all the kids in Stand By Me, you're the only one besides Jerry O'Connell that's still standing, basically. I mean, Corey Feldman's a joke. River
Yep.
Phoenix is dead. I mean, come on. I mean, I hate to say it. I mean, he should not be like this. I mean, of all the kid actors that are out there, he should be just happy he didn't turn out like half of his co-stars.
Indeed. And Huff, you know, one of the things I love about your Twix account is that you are unafraid to call out BS culture warrior bullshit whenever you see it. And Wil Wheaton is like at the vanguard of the snowflake army. What's your take on this?
Oh, Wil Wheaton is exhausting, and I think everyone is done with it. I think he's probably a narcissist to a high degree, and that comes from being a child actor. You know, and he was a big child actor, and you know what? He's not anymore. He's not anything because he was in Stand By Me. He was, you know, he was in TNG. He was.
Yep.
What's he done lately? Nothing.
The Star Trek
there's a-
after show.
Okay, so
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
done the Star Trek after show.
And don't forget Toy Soldiers.
Oh yeah,
Great movie.
Recurring role on Big Bang Theory. Hello.
That's right.
That's right.
As
wait,
himself.
as himself, right?
That's when the
yeah.
show went to hell.
I Wil Wheaton is a sad vanguard of the current woke social justice warrior culture, which even saying that sounds cringe. That's how cringe the whole thing is. And I don't know, he's irrelevant. The pendulum is swinging. Everyone's over it. My kids are all over all of that stuff. It's interesting seeing kind of early teenage kids, and my kids and their friends, they just think everything is a meme. All of the Wil Wheaton style stuff that 10 years ago, the kind of influence that gets you kicked off of Reddit, or just kind of the Reddit culture in general, where everything's offensive and oh, I'm offended, and Larry David, you know, he pretends to abuse Elmo. All the kids today would think that's hilarious. They wouldn't have any idea who Larry David is. They also wouldn't have any idea who Elmo is, because I'm almost a decade younger than Wil Wheaton, and I watched Sesame Street all the time growing up. And Elmo was not the guy. I mean, it's exactly what you said, Tom. Elmo, no one cared about Elmo. It was Grover or Oscar the Grouch or Big Bird or Snuffleupagus. But
Cookie
Elmo didn't come
Monster.
about until after me, a Cookie Monster.
I don't know who any of those people are.
And there's been plenty of times where Kermit and other Muppets have been
Kermit.
beat up by humans
I
in the
know that.
movies
It's
or
hilarious.
shows and stuff too.
Yeah, I remember Miss Piggy getting
I mean-
sexually assaulted in that movie.
Wasn't that one of Kermit's things where the guest stars would always like try to choke him out? I can think
It's happened many a time. That's my
Yeah,
point. That he's been punched, and he'll even do like the face in like
Right,
that kind
exactly.
of thing. And Piggy will kick the crap out of him.
Oh man, I'm traumatized.
That whole thing-
that
all
domestic
the
abuse.
Muppets, the Muppets are perfect for physical comedy.
Gonzo
You know?
loves
Every-
physical abuse.
Yeah,
Well,
it's
also,
hilarious. It's
it reminds me of-
they're puppets.
It reminds me of
Yeah.
the controversy surrounding Simpsons, right? Where
Yeah.
because didn't they actually stop that
Oh,
where they
yeah,
would no
with
longer have
Homer-
the choking?
Homer choking.
They actually
a
stopped
Bart out.
doing that like 20 years ago, but yet nobody
Yeah.
noticed. That's
Yeah.
why.
Yeah.
No.
Like, because nobody's been watching the show all this
No
time.
one's watching.
Like, I remember them quit doing that when I was like, I was in my 20s or something like that. I remember them saying they weren't going to have Bart choked by Homer anymore. I'm like, well, he kind of hasn't choked him for years anyway. So what's
Yeah.
the difference?
But if you watch
They
it in
changed
syndication,
Homer. Yeah.
you wouldn't even notice because it's just gonna be, you know, random episodes where they have so
He
many.
didn't choke him all that much anyway.
Yeah.
That was more in the Tracy Ullman show shorts. That's what people forget
Okay.
too. Like, I mean, in my recollection, maybe 5 to 10 times total in the entire history of the show, he choked him.
Yeah.
And most of them probably in the first 2 seasons, I'd imagine.
I really just want
Indeed.
an Elmo doll to abuse now.
Well, it's because
Well,
Homer
but-
started getting like brain damage after the first 3 seasons.
The crazy thing is that if Wil Wheaton hadn't made such a big deal out of this, nobody would have known about Larry David doing that.
No.
Yep.
No, that's not true. I did see it
Yeah.
trending before he made a big deal out of it. But everybody was just kind of laughing about it more
Yeah,
so
because
than anything.
Someone who controls bots was like, "Hey, let's get people talking about this since no one else watches the morning show." Like,
I think a lot of people were just finally somebody hit that puppet. We're glad.
It was probably the director or producer of the morning show. He said, "Hey, you guys want to be funny? Let's have Larry David come in character and try to choke out Elmo." And then
Oh, I think Larry did that off the cuff.
He
You can
probably
I
kinda
think it did.
tell.
I think he did too. Just because of what it was picking back on. Like Elmo's
Right.
massively, stupidly huge
Well,
tweet, which is why that all came about. So Elmo was trending anyway.
according to Larry David, who was on the Tonight Show with what's his name, Seth Rogen or like whatever, the Late Show. He basically
the other
said,
show that nobody watches.
Seth Rogen
Yeah.
has a late show now. That's all we needed.
It's not Seth Rogen.
not Seth Rogen, it's Seth something or other.
Welcome to my
he's not-
show.
He's not even funny enough to remember his name, but like he basically said, I got sick of listening to Elmo talk about mental health, and I just went out there and choked him.
That's fine. Seth Meyers.
My mental health couldn't
Seth
take
Meyers.
it anymore.
Yeah, Seth Meyers, the most unfunny late night talk show host out there, which is, says a lot.
That
Actually,
says a lot.
It
Yeah,
really
that's
does.
the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the barrel.
Indeed, it really is. All right, guys. So let's talk. Well, first of all, I want to shout out to Jillian N, who gifted 5 Salty Nerd Podcast
Nice.
memberships. Thank you so much, Jillian. That was very kind of you. So for those of you who got those memberships, be sure to check out the members content on our channel when you get a chance. And I totally forgot to bring up our leaderboard here on our graphics. I got so many graphics here; it's hard to find them all. But you know,
We
big
got
shout out.
graphics.
Yeah, big shout out to Scotty Dub, who you know, started the year off right with a $100 super chat. So he is our top donator right now and our top contributor. So Scotty, thank you so much for that. And of course, Jillian NWG, Sam Schwager, Major Chai Chai, and Eric Winberg. Thank you all so much for your gifted subs. And we also just got you know, a new member in here. So GJJ, member for 7 months. Thank you so much for your loyalty, GJJ. Really appreciate that. All right, guys. So, as if we didn't talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion enough on this channel, we're going to talk about how Johnny Depp is rumored to be replaced by a young black woman in the next Pirates of the Caribbean 6. Now, I checked out of Pirates of the Caribbean after the 3rd one because they were just getting worse and worse. So I really don't care much about this, but there seems to be a lot of people who do indeed care. So we have numerous reports about a rumor, and I do want to point out that it is a rumor, that Johnny Depp is going to be replaced by Ayo Edebiri. I hope I pronounced that
Wow,
correctly.
you did it really well. You did that really well.
Ayo.
I
Do
keep
it
calling her
5 times
elderberry.
fast.
Ayo, elderberry.
Oh God.
Ayo
guys.
Elderberry.
I'm still trying to
So,
figure out what site this is.
So this is the Economic Times.
Oh, well,
It is the premier
bastion.
Panache.
of India. So,
Oh my
So
god!
you know it's good.
So you have to read it in an accent.
indeed.
AOL
Well,
delivery.
Looks like
so,
Captain Jack Sparrow may not know.
It's like the one website reporting the beekeeper's budget. It's so reliable.
indeed. Well, if you want to get even more reliable, there's another article here that we're going to cover from Cosmic Book News, whose primary source is Mike Zero.
Oh god!
Yeah, we're
Yeah.
going to get
So
into
bad.
So,
That made me chuckle.
So the big rumor going around here is that Disney is putting a chick in it and making her lame, probably gay. But the character that Ao is going to be playing is based off of Anne Bonny, who was a legit historical female pirate, one of the very few who wasn't
My favorite pirate.
But she was also white and redheaded, and so
She was redheaded.
Yep.
A lot of people are saying that this is another example of gingercide in Hollywood and
go.
stuff like that. But it's kind of funny because even though this is a rumor, and it's probably made up, to tell you the truth, just to get probably by AO's publicity team to try to get her more out there, but it's so on point for Disney that it's almost believable, right? So Huff, I want to throw this to you because this is the type of stuff that makes you see red and bust a brain.
So you
vessel
didn't even hear
on
the other
Twitter.
part of this rumor then.
Well, we'll get to that when we talk to you, Tom. Okay. So Huff, what's your take on this? Do you think there's any truth to this rumor?
Oh, it would be so. Remember, so I mentioned memes. This is a meme, and it's almost too good to be true. Especially when I read that they were talking about her being Anne Bonny. That's amazing. They just can't put a ginger in anything, even when the ginger it's a historical ginger. So let's make her black. I mean, they're batting 1,000. I can't think of any redhead. I mean, it was funny like 50 characters ago, and now it's like,
Yeah.
Wait a second, really? Also, I'm with you, Matt Kadish. Pirates of the Caribbean. I loved the first movie. I thought it was so good. I saw the second one, and they gave it the Matrix treatment. And by that I mean surprise success. It was obviously meant to be one and done. They didn't have a story going forward, so they filmed 2 movies, and they did one of the most annoying things that I hate about film, and you saw it in the Matrix and Pirates of the Caribbean, is bad guy from the first movie was defeated. He was gone, and they just, well, he was popular. Let's bring him back and make him kind of a good. No, don't bring him back. Do something. For me, honestly, that was when I started marking the trend of Hollywood creatives not being creative, just doing lazy, boring, tropey stuff. Like, well, there was a character, the main bad guy was popular. Let's bring him back, and then he'll come back at the end. No, that's stupid. And I didn't see 4 and 5, and I don't know who did, and I don't know who's excited about another Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And I will tell you, if Margot Robbie couldn't get a female-led Pirates movie greenlit,
I forgot about that.
Ao is not going to do it.
Heyo.
It's not going to do it. So I find it hard to believe. I hope it happens just so we can add her to the huge graphic meme of Gingerside.
I would like to add Ao.
Which is, again, who is asking for it?
Disney, come and
You wanna
go home.
I guess it's probably better to talk about this stuff when we get into the Nepo baby, whatever her name is, Madam Web. Madam Web, the Nepo baby, but she doesn't like that. Yeah, when we start talking about Dakota, and when I say talking about, I mean, she's largely right, even though she is a Nepo baby. But she's right about the creativity, and this is just another aspect of it. Like, well, what can we do? You should make something good and new, Disney. Well, what if we made Pirates of the Caribbean 6 and then made it about a ginger and then make her a black girl? Well, no, that's not all. You just give me that money. Give me that money, and I can do something useful with it. Burn it and feed the homeless people.
Yeah.
I don't know.
All right.
It's a totally waste of money.
Yeah, I want to throw this to Tom. Tom, enlighten us on all aspects of this rumor.
Well, I don't know if this is even real or not, obviously, because first of all, it being a rumor, and this comes from Matt Wallace, so I'm not sure if this is parody or real, but this thing here. I shared it on the screen. I guess they're considering replacing with Johnny Depp in the next Pirates of the Caribbean movie. Identifies as queer and extreme socialist who hates capitalism.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
That
I
sounds
don't
on
know.
brand for Disney, actually.
Yeah, it sounds about
Yeah.
right, dude.
So I don't think it's a parody. I think that's real.
Dead on arrival.
Yeah.
Pirate.
Uh,
DOA.
Brian, I want to throw this to you because you had a great segment on your live stream on
Thanks.
Thursday about this, and you specifically called out the person who started this rumor. Can you give us a little bit of background on that?
Yeah, I don't know how to say his last name. You said Rakeman earlier. I thought it was Reitman. He goes by Daniel RPK, and it's Daniel Reitman. He has a Patreon with over 3,000 members. His average rate per month is about $5 a month, and he creates news. That's what his Patreon says. He creates news, but people keep signing up. We signed up to his Patreon just to sort of, see what the whole buzz was about. And the craziest thing is every one of his posts, if you go, and I guess I can show you, but his posts are like this. They're like they're like one word. Like we'll say like the name of the franchise, and I'll show you right now. I'm so slow at this. I'm
Oh
sorry.
gosh, not this again.
I got it. I'm doing it now. So $5 a month is average, and so it'll be like Metal Gear Solid, Clara and the Sun, Daredevil Born Again, and I'm no longer a member, guys. I'm sorry, but when you click on those, it'll just be like 3 or 4 words, like Daredevil pink suit or something like that, and just like all these cryptic sort of text messages. And over 3,000 people have signed up, and they trust this guy and his ridiculous nonsense scopes. He is totally full of it. He has never been right. He's actually attached to websites like Inside the Magic and Giant Freaking Robot, who, when you have to have entire pages that explain your credibility, that means a lot of people don't trust your credibility. And if your credibility goes to broken links, you're not doing a great job. So the Daniel RBK and GFR on these websites, a lot of them, they just make stuff up. Now, here's the deal. Sometimes they're right, because if you throw enough crap at the wall, you might coincidentally be right on something. At one point, I think he said Andrew Garfield was going to be in the next Spider-Man movie. And he just threw it at the wall. Everyone called him crazy, and he was. And you know what? That's a legitimate prediction. But you know what? A lot of people made that exact prediction that don't have a Patreon. So it wasn't a huge off that the guy that was Spider-Man before might make a cameo in another Spider-Man movie. So he's just sort of a joke. I made although I don't put it past Disney to do this, by the way. I'm a massive Anne Bonny fan. That's one of my favorite pirates of all time. I used to be really into pirates when I was younger. I read all the lore. I read all the diaries and stuff of these various East Indian Trading Company captains and stuff, and how the pirate systems work. Not all pirates were just complete murderous a-holes. A lot of them were just privateers that had an issue with the East Indian Trading Company and wanted to strike it out on their own, and they weren't able to strike it on their own because they weren't allowed to. This giant corporation, the very first giant corporation, basically owned everything. And so a lot of pirates were just privateers that were labeled pirates, and they became quote unquote evil because that was their only option. Yeah. Anyways, I'm really a giant fan of Anne Bonny. So when I heard the news, and we don't know if it's real, but I wouldn't put it past Disney. I did make this. I'm not sure how to put it back up. Can you put it back up, Kadish, my screen? I made 2 posters. So this is what I assume Anne Bonny would look like, because she was an Irish.
Oh, so
pale,
Red Sonja.
Irish. She was a pale Irish, slight of stature woman, according to historical. This is what I assume she would look like, or at least a historical appropriation, right?
Yeah.
And this is Disney's version. There we go. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you see a difference, but something doesn't look right to me.
Looks something's
I'm not
off.
sure women would be wearing that kind of stuff back then. Just saying.
Yeah.
But...
yeah.
No, if they're pirates, dude. Have you seen the drawings of Anne Bonny? Like she in almost every drawing in every one of their books, she was just always topless. She just didn't care. I'm serious. Like she's
Or
my
there was a
favorite.
bunch of men fantasizing about her. I mean,
No, in her own diary, bro. She like drew erotica of herself. She was a very promiscuous person.
She was probably like 5'4" and like 280.
She got pregnant to get out of the death sentence. It's gangster. I'm just saying.
Also, if no one out there has watched Black Sails on Stars or MGM Plus or whatever it is now,
that's
Black Sails is probably the best pirate TV show ever made. Really love that one.
Yeah, and their version of Anne Bonny is awesome. Perfect.
It's probably just some pirate named Anne. Probably not even supposed to be Anne Bonny.
Yeah,
they're just
maybe
trolling us all.
I want to throw this to Odin because basically Disney had their earnings call on this past Wednesday, and Bob Iger publicly came out and he basically said that we're going to be focusing on franchises, and one of their most popular franchises is the Pirates of the Caribbean. So it makes sense that they'd want to do it like a sixth one or possibly even like a reboot or spinoff type thing, but they seem to be completely ignorant of the fact that their diversity and inclusion initiatives are the things that are tanking their most popular franchises. What's your take on this? Do you think that the Pirates of the Caribbean could be like redone well for a modern audience?
Not by them. I mean, that's become clear. It was laid out earlier, right? The first film is phenomenal. I actually did like the second one a lot. I still remember being in theaters when the reveal happened at the end with, Barbossa coming back. And again, I forgot when the second one came out, but I would have been high school, maybe early college years. And so I thought that was awesome. I was like very excited for that. I was not on forums or anything like that. So it was a complete surprise, for me. And so I look back to that. And then of course the third film kind of just falls off a cliff. And then the fourth one and fifth one are just garbage too. The fourth one, the only saving grace, or the only interesting part, I should say, is the whole when the most interesting part of your movie is the romance between a mermaid and a preacher / minister missionary. Like, what are you doing? Like, that's the most interesting storyline that you got going on in your movie. But it is honestly just kind of amazing to me that they. Listening to that earnings call was so infuriating for so many different reasons, especially when he said, "Oh, we're going to focus on, established content. We're going to focus on franchise." It's like, have you not been doing that for the past several years already? So it's like there's nothing new. And like the only new things that there was like
new thing.
Like Moana, I think technically was, and even that one I was like, oh, so you just admitted it was going to be a show, and now you're just appropriating it to have something to put out in theaters, and so when it sucks, we'll know, oh. The excuse is already going to be built in of, oh, well, it was originally a show, and then we kind of put it together, I just can't believe. Also, I do have a lot of questions about the legitimacy of the source, because anytime it's being reported by sites like that, and that's the only people reporting on it, that have not very good track records with anything, or they're sites that just randomly appear one day. I mentioned earlier, right, like there's this one site reporting the budget for The Beekeeper, and it's the only site. And it was funny because Wikipedia put it up for a day and then took it down immediately because they're like, oh, that's right. There is no source on this. That's the kind of source that this seems to be, which is no source at all, really.
The Mike Zero school, yeah. But,
Yeah.
I want to throw this to Vader.
Yep.
Vader, Disney already did this with The Little Mermaid. Not only Ginger Side, but casting a black actress and a
worked out really well.
Irish white girl, yeah. So, but according to Disney, The Little Mermaid was a hit. So of course it would make sense to replace Johnny Depp.
Still haven't seen it.
Yeah. What do you think Disney's thinking when it comes to this stuff?
Who knows what Disney's thinking anymore? I mean, you would think there would be somebody in there who would say, "Hey, Johnny Depp got vindicated on his trial. We had no business trying to cancel him like that. And what we should do is offer him a big ton of money to come back and make another Pirates movie, because everybody would want to go watch that just to support Johnny." I know I would. I have no interest in these pirate movies since like the third one, just like you. But if Johnny Depp came back in the Jack Sparrow role, I would 100% go out of my way to go watch that movie, just because I'm kind of a Johnny Depp fan. I just like, what are these people doing? They keep on doubling down. They keep getting called out. They keep getting it proven to them day after day that their strategy is not working. They're losing money hand over fist. They keep losing their court battles. Bob Iger goes on there, just talks a bunch of nonsense, and it's just silly. I've never seen a more poorly run multi-billion-dollar company in my life. They just cannot read the room. It's incredible. And I kind of hope they burn now. I want to see Gina and Elon and
Let it all burn.
and these guys. What's the guy trying to take over the
Nelson Peltz.
I want them to just go scorched earth on Disney. It needs to be burned out from the inside out and started fresh. It has to. It's lost to us. You know, it's incredible how stupid the people at Disney are. So I can't say anything else. It's just ridiculous.
It is interesting that Disney just keeps making the same mistakes over and over, and they just refuse to acknowledge that they've been taken over by propagandists and ideologues who are co-opting this stuff for their own purposes. And the WDW Pro and Valiant Renegade have all done excellent work kind of covering Disney, but also a big shout out to Chris Gore, whose Film Threat has been doing fantastic investigative articles about the rot within Disney that's caused their downfall essentially. So if you guys haven't checked out Film Threat's articles on that stuff, please be sure to do so, because it is fascinating stuff. Real quick, want to give a big shout out to Mexican Iron Man, first super chat of the day for $4.99. Woke up hungover, Mr. Kadish. Was out with Paulie and Chris Gore's live music bar last night.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, actually, it's pretty cool because we got to hang out with Paulie and Mexican Iron Man. Yep. They were out here in Vegas very briefly for the Santana concert, and it was great to finally get to meet them in person, have them in our studio, which was last week's show, and just good guys all around. Yep. Everyone in our sphere are good people.
Yep.
Really enjoyed talking to them. All right, guys, so we've come to the point in the show where it's time to get to our thumbnail topic, which is Iger admits Marvel sucks, essentially. He didn't come out and say it directly, but he basically said it. And we have a couple articles I want to get to for this. So the first of all, this one comes from Cosmic Book News, and basically they quote Rob Liefeld as agreeing with Bob Iger that says that Marvel has gone off the rails. And basically Rob Liefeld just came out and said, like, hey, Bob Iger is just saying what everyone knows is true. And a lot of people are kind of upset that Bob Iger would go so far as to admit that, this has gone off the rails. But then we have Bleeding Fool here, and they kind of go into reports about conflicts between Ryan Reynolds and the Disney brass. And I've actually heard these rumors for months, but unfortunately, the only source that this article cites is Mike Zero, who is not exactly the most accurate source.
Zero.
Crap.
Yeah.
The only problem with that is if you did actually hear it, and if he says it, then you're like, well, probably BS.
Did they get tricked into like using Zero as a legitimate source, or are they just being funny?
But Mike Zero, he's up there with Grace Randolph in terms of like scoops and sources telling him stuff and things like that. So I also have something that I want to play for everyone, and hopefully the audio works on this. So one of the reasons why I think Marvel in particular is in such bad shape is this clip from credit to Perry Chan for putting this together. These are all the people who have been responsible for Marvel since Phase 3 going forward.
I was not very steeped in the comics.
I didn't read any comics or do any research.
I wasn't familiar with comics. I wasn't familiar with the movies.
We didn't lean into a whole lot of the history of the comic books.
Yeah, candidly, we were not enormous comic fans.
I wasn't super into superhero comics when I was a kid. I read a lot of like indie press stuff.
First thing I was told is don't read the comics.
Really?
As a creator, they put you in a bubble. They don't let you talk about any of the other projects, right?
They're up for anything.
We ultimately decided to redefine it for the series and thought that it worked better for the story that we're trying to tell.
Did you ever read you've never read the comic?
When the DVD comes out, I'm going to read a Thor comic book and just see where we went wrong.
So these are the people in charge of our comic book movies, people who aren't fans of the source material, who've never read comic books, who have specifically been told not to refer to the comic books. And, basically, Bob Iger stated that Marvel Studios lost its focus, and their solution to this is to cut back on the amount of Marvel stuff that they're making, so that they can focus more on quality over quantity. However, when they still keep hiring people like this, you're not going to get any more quality. You're just going to get less crap than all the crap that we have been getting. So, Brian,
you're still going to get crap, but you're just going to get less of it, right?
You're going to get less of the crap.
Right.
Yeah.
All right.
So Brian, you run a DC channel. You're big into the superhero movie stuff. What's your take on Bob Iger's strategy? Is this going to be a situation where the less that they put out, the more they're able to focus on it, the better it's going to be? Or is it just going to be more of the same terrible, terrible stuff?
I mean, if they didn't already have the track record they have, then I'd be like, of course. Like if you're focusing on quality over quantity, then yeah, if that's really the plan, then it should be better. But if your entire message is still steeped into this whole diversity inclusion nonsense, and your entire business model is based on focusing on, whatever generation comes after Generation Z and following these insane social trends instead of actually telling a good story, then it doesn't matter how long it takes you to make it, it's still going to be garbage. So if you actually did say, okay, we're going to put out less stuff, because like the problem is not that they're putting out too much, it's that everything they're putting out sucks because they don't actually care about the IP. They care more about the message and capturing the next generation of fans versus the generation of fans that already exist that are already going to watch your movie or TV show. So it doesn't matter how much time you take to create your art if your art is not based on pleasing the fans you already have, and instead it's based on trying to push some narrative or some message. So yeah, and maybe sure. If they actually focused on what the actual problem was and took more time to create things people like, and maybe their creatives actually read a comic book or two, I don't know, or a cartoon. There's a lot of source material out there for you guys to ingest. If you actually did that and took that time to do that, then yeah, it could 100% work. But I think the root problem isn't the amount they're putting out. It's that they don't actually care about the source material in the first place or the fan base that already exists.
Indeed. Tom, I've heard rumors for months now about the studio butting heads with Ryan Reynolds. Ryan Reynolds, obviously, his movie Deadpool 3 is the big Marvel release this year, and we've heard that Disney has been trying to basically micromanage the movie, and Ryan Reynolds has been pushing back on it. You guys over at Midnight's Edge do a great job of keeping track of the rumors versus the news and stuff like that. What can you tell us about what you've been hearing about Disney versus Deadpool?
Honestly, this is one of the first times I could say that, or at least one of the times anyway, that you're up on me on this one, because I and Andre have not heard a whole lot coming out of Deadpool, other than what was happening before, and that was that Bob Iger and him were not seeing eye to eye on the whole R rating thing before, and that's what took so long to get it made. And then when Chapek came into office, that was one of the first things he greenlit was an R-rated Deadpool 3. And then I can believe it, considering Bob Iger came back in the interim, and they're probably dealing with some of the same crap again. He's probably wanting them to throw a bunch of cameos and jokes at him, because frankly, that's what happened to Ant-Man. We heard that the original cut of Ant-Man, the darker version of Ant-Man 3, was pretty good. But then Bob Iger came in and messed around with it and wanted to add more jokes, and that's why they had those last-minute reshoots and made the whole tone of the movie shift and feel awkward. So I can imagine there's probably some micromanaging going on with this movie, because this is their big tentpole movie of the year now. They have nothing else. This is why they are repurposing Moana 2 into a movie instead.
Yeah, there's only two Marvel movies this year, right?
Technically, yes. And if you don't count the Sony ones. And I'm not so sure what's going to happen with the rest, because I've been hearing rumors that we're not going to get a Marvel movie next year, from what I've been hearing. So unless
crazy, considering Captain America has already been shot, right?
Well, they're reshooting it, don't forget. I mean, it's just 3 sequences, Act 1, 2, and 3, but
you talking about the Falcon movie?
Yeah, the Falcon movie.
See, and that's what I've heard this might be pushed again too. So that might come out this year, it might come out next year. But I'm hearing everything else not going to come out until.
But Tom,
so.
we are getting Agatha.
Oh well, if you count the series, yeah. But like, what do you call it? Thunderbolts hasn't even started shooting yet.
Yeah.
So that's not going to be done before 2026. Fantastic Four hasn't started shooting yet. Definitely not going to be done before 2026. And they haven't started on any of the Avenger films or any of the other movies. As far as we know, the only thing that's been shot is Deadpool 3, and they're reshooting Captain America 4 right now, and that's it. Besides Agatha, which you mentioned, of course, but
isn't this also the second
and
round
Deadpool
of
or Daredevil's shooting? Sorry.
Well,
isn't
they
this
got
the second round of reshoots for Captain America.
Yeah, at least. Yeah, it's been nothing but a mess over there. They're clearly trying to reconfigure things. That's probably why Bob said what he said. Even during the earnings call, he kind of alluded to an issue with Marvel, and they have to get back to the characters that people like, and they're going to be making more sequels and stuff like that to characters people like. So we'll see how that rolls. I don't see it changing too quickly anyway, because they're stuck in this rut. And Deadpool 3, you can consider that a Marvel film, but at the same time, it's an also Rand. And most people consider it that. They consider it more part of the X-Men, Fox X-Men universe than they do the MCU. So we'll see how people react to it. I think Hugh Jackman being in the movie is the only thing that's going to save it at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And it'd be hilarious though if it was true about Brie Larson being fired. That's funny.
Yeah, well, let's hope Mike Zero is right in his reporting.
The one time he could be right.
The one time, the one time everyone wants him to be right. So Huff, one of the interesting things that I've seen with Marvel in general is that in its successful era, phases 1 through 3, you look at the creatives behind it. It's Jon Favreau, it's the Russo brothers, Kenneth Branagh, basically all men. And then when they go into phase 4 and you look at the people behind it, it's all women. And phase 4 and 5 have been a disaster. What do you have to say about that?
There are no more white men in the Marvel universe, in the MCU, and in front of the camera and behind the camera. Every single white male legacy character, all the famous ones, are either a woman or black or a black woman. And you really can go down the list, and it's been a very purposeful exchange. And I think it's just one example of all of Disney, which is they build up these properties, or they buy properties that already are big enough vehicles to really blast this kind of misandrist, kind of anti-white social messaging. And once they get that platform, they go nonstop until the platform itself, until the IP itself is gone. I think Bob Iger still thinks that the MCU is just a fixer-upper at this point. Had a couple of rough, it's aging a little bit. The last 2 phases weren't great, but he can still fix it. But I don't think it is. I think it's a teardown. I don't think there's anything that they can do. There's no property they can do. There's nothing they can do besides go all the way back to Endgame and just say, forget everything that we've done. We're sorry. We apologize. It's garbage. We're just going to try to, and you can't really do that anymore because all the actors that people actually grew to love they're gone. And the thing is, they could make good characters, and they could draw from Marvel, which has tons and tons of like super awesome women characters, super awesome non-white characters. I don't really care about that stuff. It just happens to be that, most of the characters, Hulk is white, Thor is white, and Captain America is white, and they're not anymore. And the replacements are all expressly not that. And it's so, like I said, it's a meme. It's just cringy because it's so obvious what they were doing. It's like when you look at a commercial nowadays, it's definitely going to be a mixed race couple, which who cares about that, right? But when it's every single one, you notice it more and more and more until you're like, okay, this is really cringy. And I didn't care before, but now I just wonder what they're trying to do and why they care about this so much. Because it's just so weird. I don't think there's any saving the MCU. Deadpool, I agree with you, Tom, or Matt, or whoever said it, but Deadpool is its own thing. Deadpool is a holdover from Fox X-Men. And even then, it's sort of a weird tangential Fox X-Men thing. No one's going to accept it as a part of the MCU, no matter what cameos are in it. It's a weird break the fourth wall, wacky, kind of fits into X-Men, but kind of is just its own little, pocket Deadpool universe. But they can't use it as any sort of transition to, here's how we introduce the X-Men to the MCU. It's not going to work. It's going to be weird. But again, a lot of that also goes to all the multiverse nonsense, the time travel nonsense. There's no narrative stakes that you can have in the MCU anymore. So it's another Kang of infinite Kangs. It's another version of the character. Nobody cares.
More Kangs.
Yeah, there's more Kangs. Oh no, that was not
Look
a
at
Kangs.
all the Kangs.
There's more monkeys. Right now, it's just Calvin Ball.
That King is beating the crap out of a woman.
Oh my goodness.
Can't cancel that King.
Yeah. But just
another one.
Once you add in multiverse stuff, and I really hope Hollywood finally realizes, and time travel, there's no reason you can't just bring back any character anytime.
Yep.
And if you can do that, then I don't care anymore. Once you have the Infinity Stones in a freaking Owen Wilson's little desk drawer, then I don't care anymore. It was cool when it was a threat. Now it's not a threat, it's a joke. And we can time travel and change the past to change the future. And oh, that's just an alternate universe. And oh, so there's no narrative stakes. I don't care. I don't care about what happens to these characters anymore, because the writers, who are very lazy and uncreative, can just use one of these cheap tricks to undo it. So, like, MCU is a teardown for me for a dozen different reasons. And I don't think Bob Iger gets it. It's not a matter of how much content or how little content. It's like was already said, it's just all garbage. That's the problem. But the problem is it's been garbage for like 5 years now. And there's no way to come out of it. And I think from here on out, it's going to be a pathetic sequence of diminishing returns until they finally pull the plug.
They've really got themselves in a hole with all this multiverse, timey-wimey, timeline, spatial distortion stuff. I mean, it's really bad. If I want to go watch all that stuff and done better, I'll just go watch Rick and Morty or something, because they always take it in a fun direction. Then they do it sort of right, pretty good at it. But this is it's terrible. It's just like it's all I got. That's all I got to say about anything today. It's just terrible. They keep doubling down. I don't know what's going on. Pedro Pascal, Mr. Fantastic, huh? What?
Yeah,
it's come on. It's crazy.
So I want to throw this to Odin and look at this from a financial perspective, because basically, with the Disney earnings call, like Bob Iger had to admit, Marvel hasn't been doing all that great, especially coming off of The Marvels, which was their worst performing movie ever. And a lot of people are saying that Kevin Feige was never actually the talent behind Marvel. It was, Jon Favreau and Kenneth Branagh and all these, the Russo brothers, all these guys that were behind, Joss Whedon. And now that they're gone, and basically DEI has replaced them all with like female hires who are put there for their gender as opposed to their actual talent. And they're showing that Kevin Feige actually doesn't have a whole lot to do with this universe. And because of that, the box office has been suffering, the brand has been damaged. And now with all the austerity measures that Disney's taken, because they're just bleeding money left and right, we're going to get less Marvel stuff, far cheaper. But they don't seem to be fixing the root cause of the problem, which is basically the creatives that they have don't care about comic books, don't care about the source material, don't care about the audience. So, Odin, how much money do they have to lose before they figure out that they have to basically course correct?
I mean, honestly, at this point, I don't know how much more they can lose, because I've mentioned this previously, that if you look at calendar year 2023 and the films that they had come out, they had no movies under any of their umbrellas, to my knowledge, like any of their umbrella corp, like any of the companies, the subsidiaries that they have, not a single film that was released made money. And the only one you could even argue got close to it, maybe made some, and that depends on marketing. And if there's actually a higher budget, then that kind of goes away. Guardians Volume 3, right? That's like the only one that you can conceivably really point to. And so I did some, math on this, and I write for this on geeksandgamers.com about how if you actually even go all the way back to Endgame, right, back in 2019, when that film, roughly, you look at that movie individually, just from a box office standpoint, made around 600 plus or so million in net profit. When you take into account the cut from the domestic, international, all those other things like that tend to go into it. And then you take into account all the losses that they've had, right? Over the past several years. And even when you include that $600+ million of profit, all of it gets wiped away and then some up until now. So you're looking at like $200 million worth of losses, counting Endgame's profits. That's the state of the MCU right now, is just complete net loss. And if you go back even further and then you include Captain Marvel, and obviously I know there's a lot to be said about Captain Marvel too, but even if you include the profits from that film, you're still only looking at $12.8 million in net profit since Captain Marvel. So since 2019 as a whole, they've made $12 million just from their films alone, from the MCU. That's not a good place to be in. And when you've been running at a loss, especially over the last few years at least, I get the question that you asked very well is, how much do they have to lose to change? I don't know how much more they really can lose before anything actually does happen. And so I look to Deadpool and I think to myself, I'm wondering if they might actually ruin Deadpool. I know that Ryan Reynolds is doing everything he can probably to make sure that doesn't happen. But God. Kevin Feige is involved. Disney is involved, right? We've been told that there is, tension, that there's behind the scenes stuff going on. So what if they're trying to make Deadpool, since they knew, now Kang is shot, that whole thing that we've been setting up for that wasn't making money, that wasn't doing well anyway, that's all gone now, basically. So now we have to do something with Deadpool. Like, if they're going to try to turn this into something other than what we've come to expect from the Deadpool universe, I mean, I don't think Deadpool is going to flop, but if they do that to the movie, it becomes a chance.
It's their last shot. Deadpool's their last shot to save face for fans, for real fans.
Well, and I'm not even sure about all that profit, Odin, because we're starting to learn now that those movies cost a hell of a lot more than they were reporting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
you're going by the budgets.
Based on what's been reported, and also based off of the changes. So, like, I have the Doctor Strange updated budget. So that's the thing. It could be even higher in losses once we find out the actual budgets for the ones last,
like, for instance, we found out The Force Awakens actually cost $535 million. Guardians of the Galaxy cost like 3 times what they initially said it did. So you can almost figure like most of the Marvel films probably cost double or triple what their initial budgets and that's just their reported budget. Right. That's not the actual budget, what it costs. So keep that in mind. And I and him actually have I go 3 times the budget. And this is part of the reason why, because there's always hidden costs they never tell you about. As I say in Hollywood, as far as what it costs and what it made, it depends on who's asking. That's what it always matters, because if you're somebody who they owe money to, then it didn't make a dime. It lost more money than any money ever did in the history of movies. But if you're the press, then it's the most successful movie of all time. So.
And I will say that for this one, when I went back in time, I actually did an adaptation of the chart that I did. So it's 55% cut for the domestic, 40% cut for the international, and then 25% if they had a cut in China. And so then subtract that from the budget times 1.5. And I have the updated budgets for at least going back to Doctor Strange 2, where we have more accurate information about that movie. But yeah, I can't wait to see if we find out Ant-Man and Quantumania costs a lot more and Guardians 3 costs a lot more and all the other things, because we won't know that probably until a little bit later this year.
Yeah, and I want to throw this to Matt Bader 74 real quick, because a lot of people are saying that the future of Marvel hinges on Deadpool 3, and that if Deadpool 3 is a hit, all the headlines are going to be like, Marvel's back on track, Marvel has fixed itself, blah, 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 even though Marvel had little to nothing to do with Deadpool, right? But they're talking about doing these things, from what I've been hearing, like, for instance, in Deadpool 2, there was a surprise cameo by Brad Pitt, and that was just because, him and Ryan Reynolds are friendly. But they're saying that in Deadpool 3, the big thing is going to be Taylor Swift comes in. She's going to be revealed to be Dazzler for the X-Men.
Sure.
And they already kind of set the stage for this by casting Harry Styles in the Eternals, right? So there's a lot of rumors out there that basically Deadpool 3 is going to be the thing that kind of saves the MCU and turns the tide. But it just seems like if that is the case, Ryan Reynolds was the one who made Deadpool 3 what it was.
Right.
It's not going to be Kevin Feige going forward anymore. So what's your take on this?
I'm one of these people who enjoy the Daredevil movies, but I just enjoy them because they're Daredevil movies. They have, in my mind, they have nothing to do with the extended MCU universe or the Sonyverse or any. It's the Deadpool verse to me. And as far as I'm concerned, they could bring in anybody and do anything they want. My favorite parts of the movies are some of like with the Colossus stuff and the Gina Carano stuff, you know, and it wouldn't shock me at all if they bring in like Dazzler for a 30-second cameo or some other weird superhero that you know most people have never heard of. I think that kind of stuff fits right in with a Deadpool movie. You know, it's fine with me. And
Squirrel
but
Girl.
is Squirrel? No, I don't know about Squirrel Girl. But you know, just silly, goofy stuff to make people laugh. That's what Deadpool is to me. It's adult superhero movies. There's the swears. There's some weird sex scenes going on. You know, whatever. You know, when the stuff when he cuts his hand off and he's like gonna go play with himself with his little hand because it's gonna feel so big. That's the kind of humor I look for in a Deadpool movie. That's not what I go to a Iron Man movie for. You know, so. It's just one of those things. It's just,
Iron Man makes a sex toy where it's just a robot hand that just jerks.
Yeah, it's called a I don't forget what those things. What are the shake weight? Shake weight. Yeah. But, the ones that squirt on you when the workout's over. Yeah.
That's the South Park version.
Yeah, right. South Park version. But no, I just personally I don't look at Deadpool movies as part of any MCU or Sony universe. I just don't. But you know, and I don't think this is going to be enough to save anything because I think there's more people out there like me who just consider it its own separate entity. And I'm a fan of Ryan Reynolds and I like Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do. And if Taylor Swift is in it, that's going to be awesome. Great, good for her. She rules the world right now anyway. You know, so might as well. The Swifties will make that movie make $2 billion over a weekend. So if they know that she's in it, they should advertise the shit out of that. So
yeah.
Well, we're supposed to be getting a Deadpool trailer over the course of the Super Bowl, so we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Because they're worried that they might not have enough footage to actually put together a trailer, but we'll get something for Deadpool 3 during the Super Bowl. Want to give a big shout out to No Money G for $10. Thank you so much, No Money.
Nice.
In the past, writers and directors who didn't know the source material did their homework and adapted it their way, not just ignore it all and make shit up that makes no sense. They need curators badly. Well, that's supposed to be what Kevin Feige's job is.
Well,
but
there's another level to this, and this is what you and I have talked about before, Matt, and a few other people have, and that is if you go into work for Star Wars, Marvel, Star Trek, any of these IPs, the last thing you tell them is that you're a fan. They will not hire you. They don't want to deal with that baggage because you know something about the property that 90% of everybody else on the panel on the property does not. See, that's a problem for them, and they don't like that. That's just one of the many reasons, but yeah.
But also then you have like a situation like Nicholas Meyer, who directed Wrath of Khan, who came in. He wasn't a Star Trek fan, didn't know anything about Star Trek, but he went back, he watched the episodes, and he figured out a story that would work from like an outsider's perspective, but also from a fan perspective. And I feel like Marvel doesn't hire the people like that. Like
Nicholas Meyer was also he was very developed or whatever you want to call it that time. Yeah, I mean he had done a lot of work already. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, like he was a trained storyteller. I feel like most of the people that Marvel hires aren't trained storytellers. Like that woman who did She-Hulk, who hired all of her writers, then realized that nobody could write legal dramas. And they're just like, okay, well, I guess we got to pivot.
What? You made a documentary about pygmies? Well, get in here and make a Marvel movie.
Yeah, exactly.
Come on in, boss.
But here's the Star Wars franchise. Have fun with it. You know, it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But
who's Darth Vader again? Who?
What's your experience? You were Harvey Weinstein's former assistant. Come make us a TV show.
Yeah,
come on down.
So speaking of stuff that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, I want to talk about this story that's developing about how Coyote versus Acme is about to be completely wiped from existence because they can't find anyone to buy it. And this is kind of an interesting story. For the past 90 days, there's been like this big hullabaloo about this movie, which is basically it's completed. It's a finished movie. And
is it
Warner Brothers? It is. It's completed. Warner Brothers has decided that they don't want to release it, and they're going to get rid of it as a tax write-off. But then there was all this public outcry, and so Warner Brothers was like, "Okay, filmmakers, the people who created this movie, go out, shop it around. If you can find a good deal for it, we'll sell it off and it can be released. And so what the filmmakers did is they went to all the major studios. They went to like Netflix, Amazon, Paramount, stuff like that. And basically everyone liked the movie and they put in offers for it. But Warner Brothers wanted double what they spent on it. So they were looking for like anywhere between 70 and 80 million dollars. And all the other people making bids on it were basically like, hey, if we spend that much money, we're not going to make a profit. So like all their stuff kind of came in under what Warner Brothers wanted. And now that, kind of like the grace period to shop it around is up, Warner Brothers is basically like, we're just going to completely erase it and take a tax write-off. And so many people are still so bent out of shape about this because apparently it's a very funny movie. It's very Looney Tunesy. And after the bad taste that Space Jam 2 left in everyone's mouth, they really want something good from Warner Brothers. So I want to throw this to Odin first. Odin, what is this thing that Warner Brothers is doing of taking completed movies that they spent tens of millions of dollars on and just basically erasing them from existence and taking the tax write-off? Can you explain that strategy to us?
I mean, the thing, I think I've mentioned this before because I know this has come up in our conversations, previously with I think another film. And I've always logically never really understood it myself, just because I'm of that mind that if you've made something, why not just, let it out there? Like I think about how much content and how much money they spend on things that are watched by some people that they still somehow justify saying, oh, well, it had the most views and the most watched. I know that Disney is notorious for this, right? Saying, oh, this is the most watched show on Disney Plus. And it's like, that doesn't really tell us a whole lot, Disney. And I think a lot of the streaming services do that to some extent. And so like that part of it doesn't really get to me. It's like, why not just add more content and then make it more, especially with all the attention now it's gotten. Like, I think you've gotten so much free publicity from all of this. It would actually probably just be better to put it out on your streaming service and be like, okay, now more people might say, oh, let's see the movie that people have, everyone's just been talking about nonstop. But you do have to take, as you mentioned, that tax side of it too, that, and again, this is something I don't fully understand myself, but apparently there must be enough where you can write off films and projects like this to be able to get enough of a tax write-off where it's more financially beneficial for them to just erase the film from existence than to put it out and see what happens. But yeah, it's again one of those things where I understand both sides of it, or I recognize that there are two sides to this. But again, especially with all the attention that now has been brought to this project, I don't see why they wouldn't just put it out. I don't know.
Did they decide to do this before or after the whole Space Jam debacle, that last one that came out?
Well, this is late enough that they would have greenlit this movie after Space Jam,
because that didn't go over very well, and I think
none of the live action
Looney
Tunes have, except the first Space Jam.
But Looney Tunes has been ruined for years now. They've cut out all the stuff that they thought was offensive, and anything that's new that they've made is pretty lame. They've got the new Looney Tunes stuff on, what is it, HBO or Max or something that's out there, and I watched through a lot of those, and they were almost unwatchable. And what I'm understanding is that this movie kind of had a little bit of that essence of the old school, 50s and 60s Wile E. Coyote and versus Roadrunner vibe to it, and it didn't really like have all the woke stuff in it, which is maybe one of the reasons that they don't want to put it out there. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. It just seems really strange, because this is a movie I would go watch. This movie, I grew up watching these things. I watched Looney Tunes every single day, prior to the woke years. I watched Speedy Gonzales. I watched Foghorn Leghorn. I watched, Bugs Bunny, all of them, and they were all great. And if this movie had any relation to those old school Looney Tunes, then it probably would have done well, at least with my demographic. I would have watched it. I would take a wife to go watch something like that. Been fun, but no, can't have anything good.
So Tom, I want to throw this to you real quick. Ever since David Zaslav came in as the head of Warner Brothers and now Warner Brothers Discovery, he's had this habit of taking movies that were completed, but he says that like, oh, these things don't line up with our vision, or they would damage the brand because they're so bad. and he's basically just put them in the vault. Like for instance, Batgirl was one. There was a Scooby-Doo movie that they shelved as well, and a lot of people were scratching their heads as to why he was doing this with Coyote versus Acme, because again, a lot of the test screenings were very positive. A lot of people are saying this is a good movie as opposed to something that could damage the brand, and so they're asking themselves, why is Zaslav targeting this to not be released at all? And it almost sounds like this was meant to be like a streaming release, and it was like too expensive, and they know they can't make their money back just having it go to streaming, so why not put it out into the theaters? But then that would cost more money. And part of the reason that maybe they were asking for so much for the sale to other studios is that it was going to have to be like a joint distribution thing where they would split the proceeds, and that just didn't make it very attractive for other studios. So what's your take on this overall? Why is Zaslav following the strategy of just taking completed movies and making them into tax write-offs?
Well, first of all, Zaslav's not the only one who's doing this. Every studio since forever has done this. There's been plenty of, in fact, Disney did it last year in June and nobody said shit except for Willow, right? Like they noticed that was gone and that was it. Disney did it to a bunch of stuff. They've done it forever. This is nothing new. There's movies that get shelved for years. Sound of Freedom, for instance. That's nothing abnormal. Now, as far as David Zaslav, he's the new boogeyman. They need somebody to go after. Everything he does is wrong. And a lot of this is rooted in the Snyder cult. As far as this movie, we have no idea if he was even the one who made the choice to cancel it in the first place. Because something that people are overlooking is that Warner Animation got a brand new head of animation at the same time this happened. And they also are gearing up to do this other Daffy and Porky Pig movie. Now, before I say anything else, I do want to say I would love to see this movie. The concept sounds funny, but I got to admit, it only sounds funny for about 7 to 10 minutes. After that, how much longer can you sustain this joke? And I'm also not going to try to break everybody's heart, but this was made from the same people who made Space Jam 2. And what was this test screening? See, this is another thing. There's a lot of things out there that are coming from people that I'm like, what test screening? I have no proof that any people outside of the production saw it. And of course, people who made the movie are going to fucking love it. And I'll tell you another thing, with the hype that was around this movie, $80 million is not a lot of money to ask for a movie like this. Argyle, for instance, Apple gave $200 million for it. It only cost $100 million to make. What Matthew Vaughn or whatever even admitted that in the press. So $100 to $200 million for one of these streaming companies to pay for one of these movies is not asking for a lot. What tells me is they all got to see it. Okay. The hype was surrounding this film. You could not buy that kind of publicity. The fact that they didn't offer them anything more than what they felt they could make back. Basically, Warner Brothers is going to make any decision that's going to make them more money. If the offers they got were not even nearly what they needed to make the money off this movie, and they'd make a little bit more or lose less doing a tax write-off, then it's the tax write-off. David Zaslav has never seen this movie. So I have nothing in anything I can find that connects him with this at all. See, as far as I know, the decision was made probably by the head of animation because he's got a completely different direction he's taken the Looney Tunes going forward. And that's probably why this choice was made. And we don't know if this movie was any good. It could have sucked, right? Yeah. Like, we don't know. Everybody who's saying it was so great is somebody who was worked on the movie itself, right? It's the same thing with Batgirl. They were so convinced it's the greatest movie of all time. Mm-hmm. But I mean, would I like to see it? Yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm so sick of seeing people treat David Zaslav like he's some boogeyman. They're not going to fire him. His studio had the biggest movie of last year that has a shit ton of nominations for Oscars. They're not going to fire him. Sorry. Yep. It's just not going to happen. One little stupid movie like this is not going to change that. Could it have been funny? Yeah, but at the end of the day, they were not going to make the money that they thought they were going to make. Not one of those animated films combined with human actors has made any money since Space Jam. And so you could argue that the gimmick with Space Jam was Michael Jordan. So unless you get another Michael Jordan, one of these things is just not going to work again. Who Framed Roger Rabbit is the only other one I can think of. None of them have made money. They've all flopped. Back in Action flopped. Space Jam 2 flopped. That Osmosis Jones thing flopped. Name me one animated mixed with cartoon movie that has made any money in the last 20 years. I'll
Cool
wait.
World.
That lost money too.
Okay. I didn't know. I was guessing.
Actually, it lost a lot of money for Paramount. Yeah. Because they were trying to cash in on the Roger Rabbit thing and it was just not working for them. But and again, I'm not trying to be a contrarian here, but at the end of the day, it's like, why are we making such a boogeyman out of a guy who had nothing to really do with most of this probably?
Right.
And if the studios didn't want to give them more than 20, 30, 40 million dollars for a movie, that's kind of an insult. Because I guarantee you the movie cost more than that to make. It's mixed with live action and animation. I know it can't be that cheap. So it's not like it was Sound of Freedom where it only costs $15 million, $10 million.
I mean, me personally, I don't even really like movies that have crossed styles. I don't like animation mixed with real world. I don't like real world mixed with puppets and stuff. It's just it's very strange, you know. I don't want to watch a movie about, you know, in the style of.
Well, I'm reminded of Sausage Party. It's like the joke can only last for so long, right? Like once you get the joke, 10, 15 minutes in, it's like, okay, what's next?
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's the reason Larry David choked out Elmo is because humans and Muppets shouldn't mingle. So it's just how it is. So.
Indeed.
Tell that to the Labyrinth, bro.
Yeah, I want to throw this to. Okay. I want to throw this to Brian. So Brian, there are a few more recognizable worldwide brands than Looney Tunes, right? And it seems like Warner Brothers has just squandered these things. Like, can you give us a breakdown of what you thought about the damage that Space Jam 2 did to the brand and why they can't seem to figure out how to make Looney Tunes work?
Yeah, well, yeah, they were trying to recapture that magic that they had with Michael
Jordan, the GOAT, greatest of all time.
Jesus Christ, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, and you know this is the problem. What was the guy's name? LeBron James, right?
LeBron James. He's not Michael Jordan.
So they hired LeBron James. First off, LeBron James ain't Michael Jordan on the court, off the court, in front of the camera. In any way, you hired the wrong person to attempt to recapture that magic, and then to make it even better, sarcastically. For all of us Star Trek fans, it was like Sonequa Martin Green was his wife.
I do need to.
It was the best part of the movie. Brian. Did anybody else watch it besides me?
You guys,
I watched it. Yeah.
No,
I watched it.
It was awful.
Listen, you guys need to refrain from talking about sports ball people because nobody in the chat's going to know who these people are.
Look, okay, all I know is that LeBron James is really good at getting holes in one, right? Last time I checked, that's like he's holes in one or something.
Yeah.
No, so like they picked the wrong person. Like you're trying to recapture this magic, you pick the wrong person. Why don't you continue the story? Well, you were just gonna like sort of recreate the story, but with a subpar version of your famous basketball player. God damn, I'm not a sports guy. Sorry, I'm not a sports person. But what they did was they also tried to make it bigger than what it was instead of just this is. You want to recapture this magic? They're like, let's start a franchise, and they tried to make this whole belabored, complicated franchise out of this kids movie that really had. Look, the reason it was so good was because the premise was actually fairly simple, and it worked. You didn't have to go and make it into the next Star Wars universe. Okay, it's it's Space Jam. Chill out and hire better people. I mean, I guess it all comes down to hiring better people, hiring better creatives that actually care about the property, writers that understand how to write a story, actors that know how to act. I don't understand why these people in charge are they just hiring people that they think that will have a draw, or do they actually care about the property? I don't really understand. Or maybe it's they're hiring people that they can control. I'm not really sure. But it really comes down to they're constantly and continually hiring the wrong people. Just like LeBron James, Jones, whatever his name is.
LeBron James.
So to put this to Huff, basically, I think one of the big issues here is that a lot of these movies were made under the previous Warner Brothers regime before Zaslav came in. And so a lot of these movies aren't kind of lining up with his overall strategy. At the same time, there seems to be like a lack of overall strategy so far for pretty much every movie studio in existence. Now, Huff, you are an author. You've written novels, you've written children's books, you're doing stuff in Hollywood. You understand the overall basics of storytelling. Why can't people who actually run multi-billion-dollar studios have the same kind of understanding?
I think that's a question that, based on my conversations recently with industry people, and I've had quite a few, the word on the street is that basically no studio, except maybe with the exception of Netflix, at the executive level knows what they want. Everyone is terrified, again, at the executive level, of what's going to happen to streaming, who is going to buy who. And that's legitimate. Amazon bought MGM, Disney bought Fox. Everyone's buying everyone, and there's this shuffling, and basically it sounds like the industry is a mess at the executive level, which means it's just nonstop frustration at the creative level, with Zaslav in particular. So I don't know why I say that, but I'll tell you, it's a little bit of the same in medicine, where the people who are making all the decisions, insurance companies, hospital administrators, government bureaucrats, none of them know anything about actually doing medicine, but they've all insisted on gaining these mechanisms of control. And from what I understand and what I've kind of gathered from talking to these like legit creative industry guys who've done a ton of stuff that you have all heard of, they're very frustrated because the executives are only concerned about making money. They don't understand the creative process. And who is going to want to work with Warner Brothers after this? Who is going to want to spend months and months and months of their creative career? And it's months and months and months, and all the money and all the time to get to a finished product. Not just like, well, our pilot didn't get greenlit. These movies are done. Batgirl was done with Michael Keaton. Holy cow, they brought Michael Keaton back. This Coyote versus Acme was done. And then for an executive to just say, for whatever reason, I'm speaking really from a creative standpoint, flush, no one will ever see this finished movie. Nobody will see it. I cannot imagine how disheartening that would be for creatives. And creatives are already salty with studios anyway. And you saw that with all the strikes that they just recently came from. So I think feelings are really raw. And I think that exact question that you asked, Kadish, is what a lot of creatives are asking right now. And I don't think anybody has an answer. But I'll tell you, Hollywood is not, it's in shambles right now. And it's very, very frustrating for these creative guys who really do. A lot of them, as much as we talk about how they're woke and they're just pushing the message, I'll tell you, I've met quite a few over the last couple of years, and a lot of them just want to work. And there are some true woke ideologues. I mean, the Ruffalos of the world who are just kind of irritating, and the Rob Reiners of the world. A lot of them just repeat the party line because they don't really care, and it's just easier for their careers just to say, no, I believe that too. You know what I mean?
And what's their excuse for why it sucks so bad?
So I don't know, but I don't know. But a lot of them really do just want to make stuff. But the ones I've talked to acknowledge that everything sucks. They acknowledge that everything is garbage and everything is these recycled, reanimated properties from the 1980s. And they realize that nobody wants to see an 80-year-old Indiana Jones. And they realize that, oh my gosh, we're really going to do we're bringing back Willow. We're going to do Space Jam, another Space Jam. It's not monolithic.
It just sounds like they're part of the problem to me. That's all I'm saying. Sorry.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
A lot of them are. There's just so many problems. It's so rife with problems. But it is a huge problem that the executives in charge are not greenlighting anything. The things they are greenlighting are the most boring, tepid, non-exciting projects. And even when they do a big project that costs a lot of money, because I agree, there's no way that they did this big Looney Tunes movie and it only cost $30 million. No way. But they spent all this money. Surely to a creative, that's going to signal this movie is going to get made. They wouldn't spend all this money. Oh my gosh, it's deleted. Literally deleted. Literally, no one will ever see it. It's a business, but it's shocking how bad the business people are running the business. Bob Iger more than anybody, and also how bad the creative people are at being creative. I don't know the answer, but I'm going to try to fix it. That's for sure.
Well,
Stay tuned.
I'm going to jump in here and answer Tom's question about why Hollywood can't seem to make anything.
It was a rhetorical question, but please do.
Yeah. So there used to be a studio system where people would kind of work their way up through the ranks, pay their dues, learn the craft, and then eventually maybe they'd get to be a director, or they would studios would hire writers who actually wrote novels, or they were like journalists or something like that, some type of background in literary fiction, so that they could apply those skills to actually making movies. And then in the 60s, you had like that the studio system kind of give way to the film school system, where they would hire creatives like Steven Spielberg and George Lucas and all these guys who basically went through film school. And it was like the early days of film school. And these were people who were passionate about movies, who grew up on movies, and who had then learned to study movies and figure out what worked and what didn't. You could argue George Lucas isn't a very talented filmmaker, but at least he studied Hero with a Thousand Faces. At least like he studied Kurosawa. At least like he went through film school and understood narrative structure, right? So you have this generation that created the blockbuster generation, who basically learned what made movies work and how to connect to an audience. Nowadays, the problem is that you don't have any of that anymore. Most of the people making movies in Hollywood or doing the shot calling in Hollywood didn't go through film school, have never bothered to actually study like narrative structure. Like they haven't even been to a Robert McKee seminar, for God's sake. These are all people who know the right people and get jobs through their connections, or they cash in on the fact that they're a POC female or something like that to get hired because they're meeting a quota as opposed to actually having any real talent. And that's one of the problems you always get into with affirmative action, is that resources and opportunities go to people who don't deserve them simply because they were born with something that meets some type of like agenda or quota system. And we saw that this past week with Elon Musk exposing that Disney sheet about how much diversity has to be included in every Disney property. And it's very, very interesting. But that's the main reason, is because the people running Hollywood right now haven't had the background in actually learning their craft. Like they've never learned anything about anything. So like the people that, even when we saw that clip that Perry Chan put together, the people who were saying they never read comics or had source material, look at what their qualifications are. Like they have no background in storytelling and filmmaking or anything like that. They just happen to know the right people in order to get in the right doors, in order to get the jobs. And in a way that brings us to our next topic. But before then, I just want to remind everyone that we're still 5 memberships away from hitting our goal for this live stream. So if 5 people out there want to sign up for our membership, we can hit that goal. And also be sure to go to saltynerdiscord.com and join our Discord. Have a lot of fun movie conversations over there. But one of the things that I want to get to real quick is I want to get to Dakota Johnson putting Hollywood on blast. And this was a very interesting kind of like article that I came across.
Speaking of nepotism.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's part of this article. So for those of you who don't know, Dakota Johnson is the daughter of Don Johnson and Melanie Griffith. Yeah. And basically, she got her start in Hollywood because of her parents. And there's a term for this. It's called Nepo babies. And we've seen more and more Nepo babies kind of like rise to prominence in Hollywood, stuff like that. Jack Quaid is another one from The Boys, Meg Ryan and Dennis Quaid. Those are his
Wyatt
parents.
Russell.
Yeah, Wyatt Russell. So like we're seeing a lot of people, what's her name? Goldie Hawn and Kurt Russell's daughter, Kate Hudson.
Mm-hmm.
Actually,
see a lot of,
that's what's the other guy's the dad, but yeah, Wyatt's both of them are his parents, but yeah. Anyway,
okay, well, famous.
What's his name? Hudson is her dad. I can't remember his name. The rock star guy.
Okay, so essentially, we have all these young actors who are basically getting cast because of their parents' connections, and they're being called Nepo babies. That's just kind of like a derogatory term meant to kind of like signify that these people got to where they are not because of their talent, but because, again, they knew the right people. And that's one of the funny things about how people say like there are no movie stars anymore. It's because people haven't worked their way up to stardom. It's that their parents got them in the door. And Dakota
That's gonna be a lot
Johnson,
of it.
yeah, Dakota Johnson recently came out. She's doing publicity for Madam Web, but at the same time, she was also at a film festival, kind of promoting a movie that she had done independently, and she basically just echoed exactly what Huffman talked about on his previous rant, where he said that executives don't trust the creative people. They have no idea what they're looking for. They have no idea what people want to watch. And so it's very, very difficult to get anything unique or interesting done. And basically she did Madam Web. Like she says she did it because like, oh, it was a great script and I like the chemistry between like the female characters. But in reality, it was just a paycheck, But it brings us to a bigger issue here with Hollywood, where basically we're in a situation where nobody wants to take risk on anything, maybe Netflix, but at the same time, like anything that they do produce, they're requiring all these DEI objectives and stuff like that be shoehorned into this stuff. And essentially a Hollywood insider in the form of Dakota Johnson has said that Hollywood is just a mess right now. It's a scary place. It's a place where no one's willing to take risks. And it's a place that's creatively bankrupt. And so, Huffman, I want to throw this to you again. Can you give us a breakdown of what you think about Dakota Johnson's take on Hollywood and how accurate it is?
Like I said, I think that she's pretty much spot on from everything I've gathered from talking to people about my own projects. I think that is the attitude. And I think it's reflected in the discontent that you see again in the WGA strikes and the SAG strikes. I think everyone's really, I think there's a ton of friction between executives who are petrified and creatives who are frustrated. I also think that it makes sometimes I've seen this sentiment with other actors who have kind of moved on to the Dean Cains of the world, the Matthew Marsdens, the Nick Cerce's, some of these guys who have decided to plant their flag on I am not a Hollywood liberal leftist hill, and are kind of proud of it, and have gotten largely blackballed, blacklisted because of it, even though a lot of them are still working. I don't know why this isn't seen as an opportunity, not for an outfit like Daily Wire. I don't know how much y'all are into conservative politics or whatever, but you do see some of these counter programming, like Ben Shapiro's outfit. We're gonna make our own streaming show. Sign up for Daily Wire Plus. And there are people doing that sort of thing. I mean, Critical Drinker is doing a little bit of small stuff. I don't understand why this isn't an opportunity for someone with a crap ton of money to say, okay, I'm gonna buy Fox. Okay, I'm gonna buy Paramount, and we're gonna redo everything. I think this is a massive opportunity for someone with way more money than we have, who wants to make a cultural impact. And I don't necessarily mean let's shift everything in a political direction or whatever. I mean, this is an opportunity to just make good new content that people actually want to see. And we're not going to worry about all these DEI mandates that frankly make it impossible to write. Yeah. I mean, some of you guys have written, you can't write like that. Like, I want to write a historical fiction TV pilot about England. Okay, well, half of those people need to be black, but it's set in 1600s England. Don't care. Okay, I can't do it then. I can't do it. I can't make Anne Bonny, ayo, like, ayo. Oh my gosh. So it's all
ayo.
Daylight.
I don't know. Okay. That's what I'd love for people someone to take this up. And Elon actually, he did a little tweet, just the thinking emoji, when I think Libs of TikTok was like, "Hey, you should buy Disney." That would actually be a massive shakeup, in a very, very good way. But I'm afraid it's going to take something like that to bust Hollywood out of this rut. Otherwise, it looks like it's going to be a slow decline with no stopping.
He doesn't even have to like buy it. He just needs to buy enough of it to be able to push things around a little bit. You know, that's all.
Yeah, and I want to throw this to Brian really quickly. Hey. Brian, you know, there is this talk about Nepo babies, and it's kind of almost become a joke, but there's so many more Nepo babies in Hollywood than are on the front of the screen. Like, you have major, you know, people behind the scenes who are there only because their parents have some type of connection. The best example of this I can think of is Jonathan Kasdan, the guy who wrote Solo and wrote The Willow Show and stuff like that. He is one of the most talentless writers I've ever come across in Hollywood. I don't like any of his stuff, and yet he keeps getting work because his dad was a famous screenwriter. You have studio executives who are there because of, you know, their parents are kind of legacy people and have pull in town, and so like they got a job through nepotism essentially. And Hollywood has always been kind of like an incestuous nepotism based industry, but at this point the people who are getting in there are just like so numerous and so untalented. What do you think of the whole Nepo baby phenomenon going on in Hollywood?
I mean, in every industry, you're going to have Nepo babies, right? Like, whether it's Hollywood or, you know, the mom and pop dump truck company or whatever. Like, you're going to have, like...
Yeah, everybody has that dumb cousin they were forced to hire that everybody hates. Yeah.
Right, yeah. And, like, in every guy, you know, like, guy that's owned their own business for 10 years, 15 years, and their kids, you know, becoming 18, they're like, they want to get them into the family business. So that happens on the lowest possible tier all the way to the highest. And it's just unfortunate, though, that a lot of those businesses, you know, the general fans of these properties won't actually experience, you know, Nepo baby incompetence. You know, like the guy that runs a carpet cleaning company, like, it's not really going to affect you too much. But when it comes to like these big Hollywood studios and actors and writers and blah, 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 like, it is 100% going to affect us, because it also means they can't be criticized because their mommy or daddy or so, or their uncle or whatever, are people that you don't want to offend, you know? So, like, you have a writer's room, and let's say writer's room with a guy named Jerry, who is the son or cousin or nephew of the studio head, and he's not the head writer, he's just a writer, but all of his ideas have to actually have some kind of weight, or you're gonna have probably issues with your boss. That happens a lot. We know a lot of writers, and we've talked to them personally on and off the books, and there are a lot of Nepo babies hanging around wanting to be the next showrunner, the next writer, and a lot of their ideas get put in show, and like they try to minimize it, but a lot of the real writers hate them. They don't like them, and because they have to sort of deal with their bad ideas and roundabout storytelling. And this is a constant thing. It's been happening for a very, very long time. It's just now it's just like it's much worse than it has been before because of all the DEI stuff. And you have this the millennials and the Zoomer generation coming into it. And like they have some pretty bad ideas, and they were never taught to shut their mouths, and they were all given participation trophies. And now you have Nepo babies that are actually dangerous to these franchises, because they never taught how to act around people and be, you know. I can keep going. I'm gonna stop, but that's the way I see it.
Well, Odin, you know, one of the interesting things that Dakota Johnson said in this article is that she's discovering that it's really bleak in the industry. The people who run streaming platforms don't trust creative people or artists to know what's going to work. And I think that, you know, that's a problem Hollywood has suffered from for a long time, because you do have people, the shot callers, who are like former lawyers, or like they just don't have a creative bone in their body. But, you know, if you look at the 60s, you know, when studio heads actually kind of like looked to creatives and was like, hey, just do your thing. Let's see what you got, kid. And they would bring in like The Godfather or Star Wars or something like that, something that culturally resonated. And according to Dakota Johnson, there's no one in charge at these streaming platforms or studios that can do that anymore. What's your take on the state of Hollywood? Is this why we're just getting piece of crap after piece of crap?
I mean, it's more than just the whole Nepo baby thing, right? Because the other thing that always comes to my mind when this conversation comes up is, well, obviously this has been going on forever in all industries, across all industries, and yet you also have people that get in because they're friends, right? It's always been networking. Networking has always been the way that you get in, especially in the entertainment business. Because if you look at, for instance, whether it be Hollywood or Broadway, right? The people that you sometimes, I think Broadway's the best example, you'll go see a show and there's a name attached to that show, right? And typically, if it's a big Hollywood actor that's gotten in, they didn't get in because of their talent. They didn't get put on stage because they happen to be the best person for that role. It's because they have the name that can bring more people. And if you go see a show like that and you get the understudy in many cases is either as good, if not better, especially if it's that case of a Hollywood actor coming in. And it's because you have so many people who are talented, so many people who have gone through it, so many people who have done the training for it. So having the whole Nepo baby thing, right, is, again, a part of the equation, but you also have, again, people networking, friends, things like that also getting in too. And so it's less about meritocracy. It's less about earning something based off of your skill, but it's more about, again, who networking, which, again, is a hard thing to kind of root out because that's a part of most industries, because the mindset is if you know somebody, right, you have that ability to trust them versus someone that you don't know, don't have as much information about. Family, obviously, you could see how there could be connections there. And there are times when Nepo babies actually end up being okay, like either good actors or at the very least, at least are sensible or at least competent in the industry. But I think that the issues going on in Hollywood, the downfall of Hollywood, is a lot deeper than just that kind of surface level take and understanding.
Yeah.
So,
hold on. I'm trying to get everyone on the panel here, Vader. Tom, we got. Do you think that it's as bleak as Dakota Johnson's making it out to be, or is it just that she happens to just be not someone that Hollywood wants to deal with?
Well, I mean, some of the things she's saying isn't wrong, but I mean, coming from a Nepo baby, it's like, where do you have room to talk kind of thing? Because yes, we have an issue in the industry right now. And the thing that was different about Nepo babies, especially when it comes to like businesses, like, I mean, we're not talking about your dad's trucking company or something like that, where all he's got to do is sit there in a truck all day. In the film industry, you have to produce after a while. You have to be good at a certain point, or people are just going to forget about you. Even in the old days when you had like your Michael Douglases and, your other guys like that, they had to work their way up and prove who they were. In fact, you had a lot of actors back in the day where they would change their name on purpose so people wouldn't even know they were related to the individual. You brought up The Godfather. Well, that did come out in the 70s, not the 60s, but that movie had so much studio interference, it's not even funny. But one thing that, Francis Ford Coppola did do was cast his sister in the movie, right? Like that kind of was a nepotism thing, but she was a good actress. That's the difference. She had to perform. Now, his daughter, on the other hand, that's a totally different conversation to be had. Now, that's another side of the example of Nepo baby. That one did not perform. So she went and became a director instead, right? It used to be like your parents could get you out of the nest and into the industry, but you had to either fly on your own or you're going to sink on your own at that point. But now the problem is we're living this participation award generation. These Nepo baby kids are the same kind of kids that we're dealing with on the political side of things and everything else. So they feel like they should have everything handed to them. Everything is great. And I'll be honest with you, I don't think Dakota Johnson's all that great of an actress. I've only seen her in a few things, and I don't think she's that great. I love both of her parents, but I don't think she's too good. Now, on the other hand, I've seen like Russell Wyatt. He's got the chops. Some of these other guys, they generally don't. What's his name from the Godfather who played Sonny? His kid is pretty good too. James Caan's kid. I can't think of his first name. Scott. Thank you. Yeah, and same thing with Scott Eastwood. He's pretty good too. But I mean, that's just a few and far between. Yeah, we've always had Nepo babies in Hollywood, but they have to be able to be good to be able to continue on. Like even Will Smith's kids, where are they? Right? Because they're not that talented. So at the end of the day, it's the same thing behind the scenes as well. As far as studio interference, that has always been a thing. Yes, you've had your situations like with George Lucas and those guys where like, here, take my money and go make your Space Dog movie. But when they said that, George had also made American Graffiti. See, that's the thing. A lot of these people just expect them to be handed over this money, and they've never done anything. We brought this up earlier with the whole Marvel thing. It's like, oh, you've made some weird documentary that nobody will ever see. Well, come make a Marvel movie. You know, you have zero experience at it, but why not? Same thing with Star Trek Discovery. All these Gilmore Girl writers, like, what screams that they should be writing a Star Trek show? Nothing. I mean, even at least back in the day, you'd work as a director, writer, you'd work your way up, like you said, Matt. And you don't see that a lot of these days. Yes, networking is part of it. Knowing people is part of it. But this is the first time in movie history or television history or entertainment history where you haven't had to have any talent to still make it because you know somebody now. And it's strange. I've never seen this before in my life. And I think it's adding and compounding on top of all the problems we have already.
Yes, indeed. All right, guys, we got a super chat to get to real quick. We have the Joker's Voice for $10. Gina and Elon taking on the Mouse film threat, exposing the DEI in writers' rooms. Now Dakota Johnson. Tom has called the final is bursting of the woke bubble. It is the bursting of the woke bubble than we think. I think that, I'm just going to say the outcome of this next election cycle will probably determine the course of the type of content we're going to be getting for the next decade or so.
Things are starting to heat up a little bit. It's getting interesting.
A little bit. It's
heating up. Also, a little bit.
Also, Jeffrey Young has become a YouTube member. Thank you so much, Jeffrey. Hope you enjoy it. Don't forget to link your Discord with your YouTube channel so you can get access to our members-only area of the Discord. And guys, we had a lot to talk about today, and we talked about it. I want to thank all of our fantastic panel of nerds for being here, and also everyone in the chat. You guys are the superstars. You are what we do this for. So just going around the panel, Odin, any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
Yeah, I would say first, final thoughts. Ultimately, I think that it's not just the next upcoming election that can have an impact. I think it's also going to be what happens with the Gina Carano case. I think that's also something where if things go a certain way, it'll be a watershed moment. And so that's something that I'm definitely going to be looking forward to seeing what happens with that. But you can find me over at OME Reviews on YouTube, Odyssey, Rumble, Twitter, all the different places and locations. And I talk about movies. I talk about box office and give my analysis. Also, writer for geeksandgamers.com. Check out my articles over there about more box office.
Indeed. And Tom Connors Jr., Midnight Edge Maestro. Any final thoughts on what do you guys got going on over at Midnight's Edge?
Yeah, go Gina. Otherwise, you can find me at Midnight's Edge After Dark, Mead Radio. I'll be over on the Pop Culture Minefield here in about an hour to talk about King Kong 1976. Hope to see you there. And of course, Flashcast later on tonight and the Shit List tomorrow night, where we'll be talking about romance movies in time for Valentine's Day. So some counter programming to the Super Bowl.
Good stuff. All right, Huff, thank you for joining us once again on Salty Saturdays. Always a pleasure. Any final thoughts, and where can people find more of you?
I don't have any final thoughts. I said all my thoughts. Hollywood's a mess, but it doesn't have to always be that way. The only things I will say is if you want to see if I can actually write or not, here's a couple of cool books that I wrote. And you can judge them by their cover because I like them. And then I was also involved in a very special, I thought, project. That is, we mentioned the upcoming election. This book is called Everything is Ice Cream. And politics is so divisive these days. We thought it's a tale of an old man and his tongue by, well, I don't want to call him a polymath, but that's probably the right word for a guy named Chet Festive. And I was asked to kind of consult, but this is on Amazon. It's a delightful story of how a very public figure really loves ice cream. It rhymes. And
did you say ice cream?
Yeah. I'll show you. He loves ice cream.
You know, you can sniff everything too.
Let me show you about.
What are we talking about?
Here's Joe Biden.
Oh my gosh.
I remember that day. People say I can't remember stuff, but I remember that day.
Yeah, there he is. That's Greta Thunberg. Everything becomes ice cream. I don't want to spoil the whole book, But this is how does everything become ice cream, you ask? Well, he discovers a special pile of sugar in his son Hunter's room. It wasn't quite ice cream, but that was all right. So he buried his face and he took a big bite.
Oh my God!
So this is great for kids. This is great for your grandparents. And then look, everything became ice cream after that. It's magical.
There's no way it's good for kids.
Yeah. So no, probably not kids, but grandparents.
I
Certainly
mean,
your
it's good enough for
parents.
Disney. So
There you go.
Yeah. So I encourage everyone to get on Amazon and check that out. Everything is ice cream. Good
all
times.
right, very very wholesome stuff. Speaking of
Super
wholesome,
wholesome.
Ryan from the Popcast. Any final
Hey!
thoughts? And where can people find more of you?
No final thoughts other than thank you for letting me be here today. I always enjoy hanging out with you boys and talking about fun things that do not raise my blood pressure whatsoever. And it's really, really a good time. You can find me at our main channel, obviously, at the Popcast, Popcast. That's our main channel. We do have a big video coming out next week. We've been saying that for like the last month, but it takes a lot of time to make these documentaries. And like, we've been having a lot of copyright claim issues, and Shane's still writing, so it's a whole thing. But that's going to happen. Also, we're putting a lot of effort right now into our live show, so you can find us at the Popcast Live or Pop Culture Unleashed, and that's where we do all of our live stuff. And then we started a new clips channel at PCU Clips, just for clips. Matt actually suggested it, and so we did it. And so far, it is not going well. So great suggestion, Matt. But we're gonna keep doing it. You know, we got to at least try it for a month. But we went from like, oh, you know what, we're getting pretty good views on our clips to, hey, we got 5 views. This is fun. But, you know, go check it out at PCU Clips, at the Popcast Live, and at the Popcast. And then you can look at our, we have like 5 other channels too, but those are the 3 that we're putting a lot of effort into right now.
All right, Matt Vader, do you have any final thoughts?
No, I don't have any final thoughts. I never have any final thoughts. I'm just sitting here with my thumb up my butt or something, you know. I'm not doing anything. Thanks, guys, for hanging out today. It was always a pleasure doing this every Saturday with you, Huff. Thanks for coming on today. Brian, give Shane a big hug for me. I think
I will.
Maybe needs one.
He needs it.
He's been a little based lately, so you know.
He's been real based.
Yeah. Tuesday, I think we got Saltcast IRL coming up. I don't know what we're talking about, but we're going to have a live stream for 2 hours, and then we're going to do an hour member stream after that, starting at 1 o'clock on Tuesday. So come back here at saltynerdlive.com for all of that fun stuff. Right, Mr. Kadish? I just said it. God dang it. I said it. No!
Twice.
I read it under his name, and it just came out of my mouth. So
Yes,
go ahead, Matt, take it out.
my plan is working. Actually, just a quick correction. We're not doing a member stream on Tuesday.
Well,
we have other stuff that we need to be doing after the main live stream goes off the air. But that doesn't mean we're slowing down on members content. We will be producing members content. I want to give a big shout out to everyone who dropped super chats during the course of the stream today. Mexican Iron Man, No Money G, and the Joker's Voice. Thank you guys so much for contributing to the show. Didn't quite hit our membership goal, but hey, we got close. We got real close. That was really nice of you guys out there. Jillian N, I believe, dropped some gifted memberships. So I want to thank her very much. She is the queen of the gifted memberships in terms of our donations and the people in the chat. So for those of you out there who got the free gifted memberships, hope you enjoy them. Be sure to check out all the fantastic members content that we have on our YouTube channel under the members only playlist. That's over there. And be sure to tune in on Tuesday. Like Vader said, we've got our Salty Nerd podcast going live at the new time zone, which is 1 p.m. Pacific time. I believe that's 4 p.m. Eastern. So be sure to check that out. We're now going to be doing it at that time. It used to be 2 o'clock. Now it's 1 o'clock. So mark that in your live stream watch calendars. It's just easier for us to do it at that time and not step on anyone else's live stream in case you're watching someone else going on there. But until next time, my friends, stay salty. We'll see you next Saturday. Bye.